Hi, everybody. A very good morning to you all. I welcome you to this Civil Service Examination webinar series brought to you by Kingmakers IAS Academy. I'm here presenting you as Jashwant Radhakrishnan, Faculty of Polity and Economics in Kingmakers IAS Academy in India. So today's series is going to be about the glory of civil services, the pathway. So, why do we need this particular lecture in this particular day? It is only because of the National Civil Services Day is celebrated on this particular day of April 21st. So, before starting the session, I wish you all a very happy National Civil Services Day, a very important day in the nation's history. In this particular day, we'll have to congratulate and also thank and salute to our bureaucrats who have been since the time immemorial in our nation, who is rendering services to the people and to the society to make the country in this peaceful and prosperous well-being. So, at the end of this lecture, you would be knowing about the importance of the civil services and you would be knowing about the evolution of civil services, the historical development of the civil services in our nation, why the concept of civil services came into our country, and how it has been transformed in these days. Next, how the concept of civil services is impacting the society. The third, you would be seeing the people who have touched the sky through taking civil services as the career. And we'll also be seeing the unsung heroes of Mother India in today's crisis of COVID-19. And at last, you'll be having the question and answer session. So, without any delay, we would start the session. So, before going into this session, I would like to question you what is civil service? You could give your answers in the comment box below. Please try to answer. What do you mean by civil services? So take your time. I don't need any exact meaning or whatever thing which is given in the dictionary and all. I do not need the Google or Wikipedia answer and all. So just tell me. Okay, good. Prasanna is answering. Working for our country. Nice. Okay. Bhaskar is giving the service done to the society, serving the civilians, people wholeheartedly. Okay. Suren is giving working to the government, right? Okay, any other answer? The bridge between people and the government. Okay. And Nitin is answering service for Nitya is answering service for our nation. Nice. Okay. People worker, Jay Prakash. Okay. Abhish is telling service to the nation as a man. Okay, right. Good, good. Work for people and guiding them, says Shalini. Okay, it is conducted by UPSC. Okay. Abdul gives this answer. And yoga work from India. No. Akhil says serving the people. Right. Okay. Fine. Good answers. You know the meaning of civil services today. Okay. Let me give the very exact definition which is given in the Britannica. Okay. Civil service is first the body of government officials. It may be anybody, right from the topmost official to the bottommost official. right from the cabinet secretary, which you see, till the clerk who are you going to the post office to deposit some money or to get some post who is delivering to your house, everybody are called as civil servants. So they are all employed in the concept of civil occupations. Let me tell you what a civil occupations are. So the occupation in the country may be divided into two. One is the government occupation may be divided into two. One is civil, and the second one is military or defense occupation. The people who are all rendering their services in the subject to the welfare of the people, in the welfare of the government and the daily running of the government are said to be a civil employees, and they are not political or judicial. So this is the definition which you can come across in the Britannica. So before going into this, let me play a video. So this is about the video which is to be cherished on this very important day. So please take a look. So I hope you would seen the video. So now next, let's go on to the next topic of today, which is going to be very informative for you guys, right from the historical development. So let's see some history before that. Before going into the evolution of civil services, let's know some history. So, you know that India got independence in the year 1947 of the date August 15. And before that, you know very well that we were the country which were ruled by one of the colonial masters, and the country was Britain actually. So the British country, I have to skip the history, not right from the ancient India. I would skip it. Directly, we are jumping into the year 1600s. So in the year 1600s, there was a country which was called as the England, and they sent a company to begin the trade with our nation. So those people were living in the zone which is known as temperate zone geographically, and we are the country which we are in the tropical zone. So you'll be knowing about this in very detail in the courses. So in our, what is more speciality about this tropical and temperate zone is in tropical zone, we have the very much abundant level of spices, which is required for the keeping the food a kind of fresh for a lot of years. Only today we are having this concept of fridge and refrigerator and all. Earlier they used to save food for the next season by the use of pepper, salt and all. So the main motive was this. The company which was called as the English East India Company, I repeat it, the company's name was called as the English East India Company. They got the permission from the Queen of Britain uh, to start the trade in the country called as India. So that particular queen gave the charter, which is known as the Magna Carta. Charter is nothing, just a government order. So that particular order was given, which is called as Magna Carta. So all about this you'll be knowing in detail. I'm just giving you an overview of this history. So this Magna Carta was given, and what was said in this Magna Carta, sir? So this said that the British Queen is giving the permission to start the trade with India for this one particular company, which is called as the English East India Company. So now this English East India Company started their trade with India. So the later on, this company needed officials in the nation. So they want to manage the trade and all here in the country. So for that, they employed few people, which is called as the civil servants. So they wanted to serve between should be a bridge between the government as well as the people here. So they started this concept of civil services in the country. So civil services started here, Noah, to enable the good movement of trade and relationship between the government, which was the British government, as well as the people who are living in India. So let us see what happened thereafter. So moving on, so this evolution of civil services in India started in the year of 1757. So in 1757, there was the company which is known as, I told you, English East India Company that ruled a nation. So in this particular year, they started this concept of administration in India. So at that time, those people were called as the coordinated civil services. Today we are calling as IAS officers, IPS officer, IRS officers. At that period of time, they were called as covenanted civil services and uncovenanted civil services. Two categories were there. So we are concerned about this covenanted civil services. So this covenanted civil services were allowed only to the people of foreign countries. No Indians were allowed here. So how did they recruit these people, sir? Is they did not recruit the people on the basis of any kind of examination. They recruited only within the process which was taken through the company, and the people of the company started to recruit these people. There was no any kind of examination, no merit and all. Whoever is close to the company's officials, they'd be appointed as the civil servants in India. So these were how the early civil servants look. Look at their uniform, look at their gesture, look at their posture which they are sitting there. They, while you look at them itself, they look very strict and very rigid kind of officers. right? So next we moving on, what happened in the year 1854 is there was a committee after around 90 to 94 years. They got at this concept of putting a new committee in order to reform the civil services. Earlier, the civil services were very rigid and their functioning was totally not favorable to the people as well as the government. So they wanted to make reforms. So a lot of reforms were made, out of which I'm going to speak only about few reforms, which is very important, which you have to know it. So this committee, which was called as the Lord Macaulay's report, I'll show you who's Lord Macaulay in the next slide. So Lord Macaulay's report was formed, and what did he recommend is he gave a lot of recommendation. One of the few important thing is he asked us to make a merit-based modern civil services in India. So earlier they were recruited in just like whoever was close to the company, they were open to come into the services. Now it started into the concept of a merit-based civil services, and also he also recommended to make a concept of permanent civil services. Earlier, the offices were just like use and through temporary offices. They were not permanent tenure and all. So what is permanent? So till once you have entered your service, till you are retiring, you will be in that particular service. Earlier, that concept was not there. So now this Macaulay's report is giving make this concept into a permanent civil services system, making into a competitive examination. So now only the concept of examination is being started in the civil services recruitment. So based on that, they formed a committee which is known as the Civil Services Commission. So this is the body which is going to make the recruitment process for the civil services. Today, UPSC is making. So this UPSC is the Union Public Service Commission, which is making the recruitment today. Earlier, this was called as the Civil Services Commission. And later on, so where this examination was conducted, sir, this was not conducted in India. It was completely conducted in London. So the people who want to become civil servants, they must prepare themselves and they should go to London. And in fact, for coaching itself, you should go to London and there you will have to write the examination and then you will have to pass the examination. The training will be also given in London and after that you will be posted in India. So this was the process in the year 1855. So this is Lord Macaulay for you. And this is the place where the Civil Services Commission in London was located. And he also gave a recommendation that to change the name of the services from Covenanted Civil Services to the Imperial Civil Services. So there onwards, the officers who are passing the examination are called as ICS officers, right? So you would be seeing in this film, in Tamil film, which is called as Linga, which is a very famous film done by Rajni. So there he'll be an officer who's called as an ICS officer. Would you remember that? So he'll be a person who's building that bridge and all, right? So this concept was called as ICS officers. Whoever the pass examination, they called as ICS. After your name, now you're giving IAS, there they gave ICS. So the next, after 50 years, another committee came on. So this committee was called as the Atkinson Commission. Okay, his full name is Charles Augustine Atkinson. So this Atkinson Commission recommended that the Indians should also get employed into public services. Till that date, we did not have any kind of major Indians into the civil services. So in the year 1886, he gave this recommendation, and yes, this was taken up. And the next concept of reforms is just a second. So this the next concept of reforms where the Islington Commission. This Islington Commission recommended that 25% of the civil servants must be posted by Indians. So today 100% of the people who are in the civil services are Indian citizens. Before independence, so only in the year 1912, they're recommending that just 25% of the Indians must be in civil services should consist of Indians. So then it also recommended to make the examination to be partly held in India and partly in England. In 1912, he recommended, and after 10 years, only in the year of 1922, the Imperial Civil Services examination was held in India. From that date onwards, it was held parallelly in India as well as in England. So after that, the evolution was done in the year 1926. To conduct this kind of examination, the commission was set up. the commission's name was just Public Service Commission. So today we call it as Union Public Service Commission. At that day, it was just called as the Public Service Commission. So this was established in the year 1st October in 1926 under the chairmanship of Sir Ross Barker. So he was the first chairman of the Public Service Commission in India. So thereafterwards, the next development took place in the year of 1935 in the Government of India Act, so which envisaged the Public Service Commission for both the federation as well as the provincial Public Service Commission. This one would be a kind of confusing statement. See, listen. So before entering into this federal, you know that in India there are three sets of government. So the first set layer of the government is the central government or the union government, which we call it. So the central government is the combination of all the governments, and it is, as of now, it is being ruled by the Prime Minister Narendra Modi. So the second layer of government which are coming is the state governments. So there are around 28 states in our country. So these 28 states are having different kinds of governments. So this is the second layer of government. So and the third layer of the government is the local government, that is the municipality, the panchayat elections, and these kind of government. So three layer of government today we are having it. So before that we had before independence we had this only two layer of governments. One is central and the state. The central government has another name which is called as the federal government. So that is what is called as the Public Service Commission for the federation. That is for the central government. And second one is the Provincial Public Service Commission, that is for the State Public Service Commission. As of now, you are having this TNPSC for Tamil Nadu and Andhra Pradesh Public Service Commission for Andhra and UPPSC, that is Uttar Pradesh Public Service Commission. So different commissions are there for the states, right? So this concept was evolved only in the year of 1935. So this 1935 gave a landmark change in the nation. So that brought the concept of two different service commissions. One is for the central government, another one for the state government. So thereafter, this after independence, this concept of name of ICS was changed into IAS. Okay, so don't worry if you do not get these points into your mind totally. You will be knowing about this in very detail in the subject called as polity, which you'll learn in the upcoming classes, right? So next, after independence, we have the law of motherland, which is called as the Indian Constitution, in which there was an article which is known as 312, Article 312, which envisaged to make a commission which is known as the Union Public Service Commission. So this Federal Public Service Commission was called into Union Public Service Commission with the date of January 26, 1950. Why this date, January 26, 1950, sir? This is the date in which the Constitution of India was came into effect. So then this Public Service Commission was made into a body, and it had a chairman and members. And these members around today, they are 10 members plus one chairman. So these 11 members manage the complete recruitment of the Public Service Commission according to the Article 378 of our Constitution. So you have to remember these two articles. Article 312 speaks about the Union Public Service Commission, and all these members and chairmen are set under the Article 378. So that's it. We are completed with the first part of our lecture today. So next one, why civil services is called as the steel frame. So why is this services that much famous in this country? Why all the people are moving towards civil services? Whoever you ask, they want to become a collector. I want to become an IPS officer, IRS officer, foreign service officer. Why is there so much craze in this nation? Because the civil services is called as the steel frame of our country. So it was rightly said as per our. Could you tell me who is this image here? Could you just answer me? The person who is in this image, if any idea? Just type your answer here. Could you imagine who is this person? Lal Bahadur Shastri? No. Venkatesh tells. Lal Bahadur Shastri? No. Yeah, I got one good answer from Kishore. Just Patel. What's its full name? Yeah, Ravi Prasad says is Sardar Vallabhai Patel. Yeah. So Sardar Vallabhai Patel is called as the father of civil services in our country. So he's the person who first made this concept of transition of this ICS to IAS frame. So I told you after independence, this concept of ICS became into IAS. It's a huge process. Just we are not changing the name here. So the complete setup was under the colonial government. The colonial government, the people under here were completely working for the colonial government. Now they have to completely shift after independence to work under themselves, and they are being the drivers of the development in our country. So now the Sardar Vallabhai Patel played a very, very key role in the development of the civil services in India. So he was called as the father of civil services in our nation. So so his visit to the academy, actually, this took place in the year after independence, in the date of 21st April. So this is the visit of the first visit of Sardar Vallabhai Patel, the officers, all the people you see behind us, all the IAS and IPS officers of that period after independence. So our Vallabhai Patel's visit to this academy was on this particular date, on the date of April 21. So that is why we call this today's date as Civil Services Day. I once again wish you all a happy Civil Services Day. And among this day of crisis of COVID-19, you will have to cooperate and salute and respect all our civil servants and the bureaucrats in the nation who are working towards the welfare of the society. So, how it becomes the civil services? Why it is called as the iron frame, sir? So next you'll have this curious question: why this is called as the iron frame? So now you'll get that answer while we see this particular slide, which is called as the impact of civil services. So what are these people doing? So just selling civil services, civil services. So what is the impact of the civil services in the nation? So this is we'll be having a list of works which the civil servants are doing in the nation. So first of all, the civil servants openly involved in all actions within the framework of the ministerial actions to the government and legislature. You have three particular body in the country under the government frame. One is legislature, second is executive, third one is judiciary. So in these three, the civil servants, wherever you go, there will be a civil servant who is able to take forward the movement of the government or the process of the government anywhere. Be it anywhere in the country, any government office you go, any ministry you go, any department you go, there will be a civil servant to take care of the society. So you know it, every 5 years, the ministers or the MLAs, whoever you elect, or MPs, whoever you elect, will be changing their tenure after every 5 years. They are called as the temporary civil servants. Whereas these are the permanent civil servants. Once you get into the services after you pass this examination until you retire, you are called as the permanent civil servant. Your work is to completely run with the government, and every ministerial action should be fulfilled by you. So every 5 years the policy changes, every 5 years the politician changes, every 5 years the government changes, but the civil servant will be same. So he will be taking care of the policies which were brought before that 5 years, and he will try to continue that particular policy towards the welfare of the people. So the complete work of the government is bestowed upon this particular civil servant. So next, so the civil servants are responsible for the public interest in maintaining the law and ensuring the proper procedures are followed. So you know that our country is a law-framed country. All the countries are basically law-framed countries. So in which in India you have plenty of laws. These plenty of laws are always been violated, right from the violation of traffic signal, and even in today's news channels and all, you'll be seeing that a lot of people are violating this 144 lockdown period, and a lot of children are playing in the playgrounds and they run while they see this drone camera. You'll be seeing all this. So these are all kind of law violations, and these civil servants are bestowed to do all these maintaining of this law and order in the country. So it is completely to them. So then the the very principal responsibility of the civil service executive to the society is to serve the government which the society has elected. So today in India, you're having this NDA government, and tomorrow it may continue, or you may form into a new set of government. But the civil servants should have to oblige by the government orders, and they have to follow which the society has chosen to be the government. They have to follow under them. They'll have to respect them and continue with the same concept of the services which the civil servants were providing in the same standard, with free, frank, and impartial and responsible advice to the ministers, right? So this is a very, very important responsibility of the civil servants. Wherever the government today, Narendra Modi is there, tomorrow it may be Rahul Gandhi, or tomorrow anybody, Arvind Kejriwal can also come there, or even anybody from the state can go and rule. So at that particular time, there shouldn't be any kind of impartiality. I'm a people from, I'm having this particular bias towards the government, so I'm not going to work under them. No, not such thing. Everything should be there with impartiality. The only aim of the civil servant must be there to serve the society and not to any particular government on any kind of bias. So very, very important responsibility of civil servants. And then the fourth point which we see is the civil servants have very close relationship with the society as they serve the array of services, all the services, any kind of department. Lot of civil servants are there. They are directly in touch with the people, so they know what the people needed here. So what is the problems associated with the people, they will go on with this a concept of having a close relation with the society here. And then the civil servants will ensure that entitlement and services provided to the society under law and the government policies are delivered effectively, courteously, and professionally. So right from the service delivery of a ration shop till the certificate which you receive from the government for the OBC or EWS, all these services which are rendered to you must be provided effectively in an efficient time and a very professional manner. So this must be followed. So the civil services officers are responsive with the need of the people, treating its member with courtesy and also with sensitivity to their rights and aspiration. To bring the aspiration of our nation, it is the prime responsibility of the civil servants to make the nation developed into the next level. So that is why we aptly call the civil services as the backbone of our nation. So you will be knowing a lot of things in the due course. So while you do the course, you will be knowing a lot of things. So all other things in detail you may study in the course. So this is what you would be knowing about the impact and the role and the evolution of civil services today. So as of now, you will be knowing how the civil services has transformed the nation, how it is making us proud. So we'll be seeing a lot of people who have touched the remarkable position. So first one I want to introduce you is this person. Can you guess him? I think this person will be introduced to you in the earlier lectures itself. So who is this person? Okay, just type here. Yes, I got one correct answer. Winston Churchill, no? Okay, I also need 2 to 3 people to answer this correctly. Okay, this person is correct. This is the first ICS officer, Indian ICS officer of our nation, that is Mr. Satyendranath Tagore. Okay, so next person is a very new person to you. Who is she? I'll give you a guess. She is the first women IAS officer in the country. Just try to get her name. Anybody? No. Malcolm Gladwell, Lord Irwin. No, no. Okay, I'll come to the answer. None of you got right. So her name is Anna George. She was the first women IAS officer. Why do we tell them, the people who have touched the sky? See, Satyendranath Tagore became an ICS officer in the second half of the 19th century. So you know it very well. In this period of time, the examination was completely conducted in London, and the maximum age limit for this examination was just 23. Though the minimum age limit was 18 and the maximum age limit was 23. If you want to become an IAS officer, you should be before 23 years and after 18 years. So only 5 years time span you have, and at that particular time, Satyendranath Tagore, in the age of 21, he became the first ICS officer. So today you're having the subject which is completely relevant to Indian scope, that is history of India, geography of India. You'd be knowing it in the earlier lectures. But at that period of time, you should study foreign languages as well. You should know the Greek and Latin languages to excel in this examination. In that period itself, the first ICS officer of India was Satyendranath Tagore. He was just the brother of Rabindranath Tagore, who wrote our national anthem as well as the Bangladesh national anthem. So second, Anna George. So among the odds, she was the first woman IAS officer after independence era. So at that period of time, the literacy of our country was just 16 percentage. So no, keenly, only 16 percentage in our nation was able to study. Exact number was just 4 lakh people in our country know to study at that period of time. So they had education. Out of that 4 lakh people, out of that 4 lakh, just 8.9 percentage women were literate at that scenario of 1950. So in that particular time, that means what, one out of 11 people was a woman, educated people was women. So at that period, she broke all the odds, and that you had a big kind of social disasters in that, all the social evils taking place. And in that particular period, she was able to break all the odds and to become the first women IAS officer of a country. So lately she was passed away in the last 2 to 3 years before. So next person, so she's a very famous person. You'll be knowing her already, and I think you don't need any kind of introduction to her. She's Kiran Bedi. She was the first IPS officer, and now she is the Lieutenant Governor of Pondicherry as of now. So then this is Sri Ajit Doval. So he is an IPS officer. So he is the National Security Advisor of India today. So what do you mean by National Security Advisor, sir? Is he's the person who communicates with the, he is the topmost official from the civilian side to communicate to the Prime Minister about the defense mechanisms in our nation. Okay, he was the formal IPS officer. And then so this person, you know him very well. This is the Chief Minister of Delhi, Sri Arvind Kejriwal. He was also the former civil servant. So next one, you know him, Sri Subramaniam Jaishankar. So he was an IFS officer. Now he is the External Affairs Minister of India. And not only him, you have a lot of people in the list now. So you are also seeing that the scope is also being extended to the government also. So the civil servants, the people who have taken the career of civil services are also excelling in the other fields. So we are also having this lot of inspirational icons. So you know this our last vice president Hamid Ansari was an IFS officer, for your kindly information. And not only we are having vice presidents, we also have presidents who are from civil services. That is K.R. Narayanan, who was the former president of our country, was an IFS officer. And another inspirational icon in civil services, a big inspiration for all civil servants, is to become one like this particular officer, that is Mr. T.N. Seshan. So he is an IAS officer who was very well known for his renowned position of the Chief Election Commissioner of India. So he was the one of the persons who conducted the election for the whole country. So he made this office a very renowned manner. So how able this office is, how impactful this office is to the nation. So how elections are more important. He brought a lot of changes in the elections to make these elections as a free and a fair elections in our nation, to make the people have the faith in the electoral processes. So he was one of the very, very iconic officers in the nation, which is T.N. Seshan. So next, so the very next officer is Sri Naresh Chandra IAS. He was the former cabinet secretary of our country. He is also very inspirational for his work as the chief secretary of Rajasthan, and he was an officer of a Rajasthan cadre. So he made a lot of reforms during his period to bring down the state of Rajasthan, to bring up the state of Rajasthan from the underdeveloped state to a very good developing state today. And next, this is our another politician, which you can see here is Sri Yashwant Sinha. So he was the former finance minister of our country, and he is also from the bridge of IAS officers. And one more person I would like to tell you is the current RBI governor, who was the former secretary of finance, that is an IAS officer. He has become the governor of RBI today, which is Shakti Kanta Das. And there are numerous number of officers which I could quote you. And now let me tell you the faces which you know. So, and before that, yeah, you have a lot of ministers who have gone into this particular Lok Sabha. So you could see this is R.K. Singh. He was a former IAS officer. He's now holding the Ministry of Skill Development and Entrepreneurship. And Hardeep Singh Puri and Som Prakash, they are under the Commerce Ministry. They are former IAS and IFS officers. I do not give the Hardeep Singh Puri's picture here. So this is Som Prakash, who is the former IAS officer. He's under the Ministry of Commerce. And next is the Ministry of Parliamentary Affairs and Heavy Industries and Public Enterprises. Arjun Ram Meghwal. He is also from the bridge of an IAS officer. And there are also other civil servants who got the seat of MP. Okay, Satyapal Singh from Bhagatpur, he is an IPS officer. He was an IPS officer. Brijendra Singh was an IAS from officer. He's got a seat from Haryana. And Aparajita Sarangi, she was also a former IAS officer. Now she is the MP of Bhubaneswar. And there are a lot of people which I could quote you. So now let's come to our state, narrow down to our state. So this is the person which is very, very famous for you all. He's been an inspiration for a lot of generations of people. So this is Irayanbu IAS. Now, as of now, he is the additional chief secretary of Tamil Nadu. And next, a person who needs no introduction, Dr. Sailendra Babu IPS. So now he is the ADGP Railways in Tamil Nadu. So these two people were very, very iconic. How, Sir Abdina? They were writing a lot of books which would inspire our aspirants. So there are a lot of books which has been written by these two people. So out of your own interest, you should study them all. So they would be sharing their own experiences in their civil services as a career, and they'd be motivating your aspirants. So definitely take time and have a read on their books. So there are a lot of icons who have transformed our nation. They are inspired our people to take civil services as a career. These two people are very, very responsible to make the officers who are coming from the 1990s and 2000s till date, I can tell you, because they constantly engage with the aspirants with their books, their lectures, their classes which they give on. So they encourage the aspirants even from the local area, very, very rural area, to come forward and take up their civil services as the career and to excel in this. So there are plenty of examples which I can quote you, but due to time is short, we are running. So, and next, we are seeing this unsung heroes of COVID crisis. I would like to introduce to you three persons. So they are very famous in the news. You would have definitely seen them. So first one, can you tell me who is this? Can you guess? Okay, Akash is telling Chennai Commissioner. Okay, correct. But can you give his name? Okay, Vigneshwar has got the correct answer. Right. Okay, he is Sri Prakash IAS. So he is also one of our products of Kingmakers IAS Academy, and he is the Corporation Commissioner of Chennai as of now. So he is taking huge responsibilities to make down this COVID crisis in the Chennai area, to be Chennai as well as Tamil Nadu level, to be into a solid position. And next, this is the person who is in the central. He is the chief. He's the joint secretary of health. That is Love Agarwal IAS. And this person, you know them very well. That is Bela Rajesh IAS. He is the secretary of health in Tamil Nadu. So they are all these unsung heroes. They are also from this person of this civil services. So you know well how responsible they are now. As of now, this there is a huge crisis in the country, which is in the whole world, in fact. So which is making a lot of people to be in their home, and there is a lot of economic crisis as well. So these people, not only these three of them, there are a lot of people who are making sure to make this people run in a very smooth manner, and this government is taking a huge responsibility, and this responsibility is completely on their heads. So it is not only them, but millions of people which you see, right from a police officer, the people who is supplying you the basic needs, the doctors, the nurses, even the people who collect garbage, the sewage people who are working, and every other people who is giving the service is civil servants, right? So here you would come to know that it is not about the designation of becoming an IAS or Group D officer. It is only that your service you render is counting. So whatever service you give to the people, you work into the welfare of the people in the nation. So thus, on this day of civil services, that's we are coming to the end of the lecture. So on this day of Civil Services Day, I welcome you all to be a part in this wonderful journey in transforming India from a developing country to a developed country. So that's it. So that we are coming to the end of this lecture. So you know it very well, these two people, Rishabh and Chitra, are being one of the icons of Kingmaker's pride. Rishabh Sia, he's got wonderfully the Tamil Nadu cadre by choosing IAS as his profession, and Chitra ma'am, she's taken IRS, IRAS officer, and be one of the part of this kind of civil services. I welcome you all today. So you'll be seeing a topics. So all these people are going to guide you in your future classes, and even in your service you may become their juniors directly under them, and they will definitely guide you all. So thus we teach, you reach. So now we'll go on to the Q&A session. So if any doubts, you can ask us quickly. How to improve aptitude, how to prepare notes from NCRT. Okay, right. So last class you had this resources session. You'd be known very well that you have to start your classes from right of your sixth standard. So you have to start your preparation by starting with the sixth standard book, and you'll have to go on one by one. So how to make notes is, so I'll just give you a brief about it. Take a subject, maximum of the questions will be, a maximum of the syllabus will be repeated one by one. For example, take geography, 6th, 8th, 10th and 12th books are similar fashion. 7th, 9th and 11th books are of similar fashion. So in this scenario, once you complete sixth book, just jump to the next book. So you'll be having developments. So before taking any kind of notes, make sure that you read the book thoroughly. See, NCRT is just like a school book. You do not take that particular notes. And if you want to take any kind of notes from NCRT, just take down the hint points. For a particular unit, there will be not more than 10 to 15 points there. Okay, so don't worry. So just try to take notes around 10 to 15 points, make it out of a hint manner. That's it. Okay, so I think I've cleared that question. Second one, can I be able to give UPSC at part-time classes? Yeah, you have it. For this, you just call into the number which you're seeing below. So they'll be guiding you completely. I just want to answer the general doubts. Okay. So this particular person, you can call here to this number which is shown in the screen, and you can definitely get the answer. Okay. What medium you can write the examination? You have both vernacular as well as English medium. You can write in your English as well as your Tamil. If you know Kannada, Kannada, Hindi, any medium you are able to write. But in prelims examination, the question paper is available only in English and Hindi. So definitely you will have to know how the questions are asked. So definitely you will have to know what is the meaning of the question which is asked here in English. So I better think you will have to study both English as well as Tamil newspaper here. Okay, so two newspapers are important. I think and it would be covered in your resources. So every aspirant, because in mains examination you have one particular paper which is optional paper. You'll have to write in Tamil also, Tamil or any kind of scheduled language. So you can write completely your examination in Tamil as well. And for the people, definitely they'll have to know two languages here. And since the students are from Tamil Nadu, I tell Tamil is also important, or the people who are from the other states can definitely, they should definitely know their particular mother tongue or this vernacular language there. Okay. And I don't see any other questions rising up. I'll answer one more question. Okay, how to improve the aptitude? Okay, you'll be having a separate session on this. So Lochana is asking how will improve the aptitude of this. Okay, you'll have this one particular session for you completely. How to make aptitude, and then next question. How to read newspapers? That is the next session. Yamini Bhaskar. Okay, that is the next session. Just enroll yourself and you will be knowing it. Abdul is asking. Okay, this is he's also asking how to improve the aptitude. How to read newspaper? That is the next session. Please do it. And how to join coaching classes? Just call this number. They'll guide you completely. How can I choose optional paper for mains? Okay, that is also a separate session that would be covered in your next class. And that's it. Okay, I don't see any kind of questions rising up. So don't forget yourself to enroll into the next webinar, which is how to read newspaper. A lot of students are asking how to read this newspaper. So enroll yourself. So this session will be on 23rd April 2020, that is 2 days after at 10 a.m. So this 1 hour webinar will make you read how useful this reading this everyday newspaper is, and it will also involve the proper strategy. And I think Mr. Adil Beg, one of our faculties, will be presenting the lectures to you. So I would like to end our session. Thank you. Until next time, this is Jashwant Radhakrishnan signing off. Bye.